Welcome, everybody. It's great to see everyone and to have a chance to participate in a Tu B'Shvat experience, a Tu B'Shvat Seder. I have a online Haggadah, that I sort of adapted and formatted for this evening that I'm going to share with you in just a minute. If you have your fruit and wine, so much the better. But if not, you can still fully participate in our experience as well. We'll be sort of learning a little bit about the meaning and significance of the different fruits we can eat, the meanings of the cups of wine, just like Passover, and so it should be a very interesting experience, and hopefully a little bit educational and fun as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen.
Hi,
everybody.
And like any good Seder, there's going to be certainly some time for some participation, and so there's more than a few sort of readings, a couple poems, a couple different pieces of Torah learning that we're going to have today, and so it'd be good if we could also take turns reading them. That'd be fantastic. Again, it's like a real Seder that we'd be all together.
Rabbi, can I tell you a cute story?
Please.
From TBI, Helene and I were the co-presidents, and one year we decided to have all ice cream Tu B'Shvat. So
yes.
we had the nuts and the fruit, and we were happy as clams.
I feel that's on my sort of my rabbi bucket list. Is to like break out the Ben and Jerry's Seder.
Right.
I haven't done that yet. I've done a chocolate Seder. That I've done. And I did Israel out of ice cream with a youth group, and that was a lot of fun. We got a map of Israel, and the chocolate was the desert, the mint chocolate chip was the north, and the vanilla was the sort of city, Tel Aviv, kind of area with lots of different accoutrement thrown on top. Sure. And then there's more than a couple spoons. This was not a very COVID-friendly experience. This was obviously 15 years ago, but it was a lot of fun. And I dare say in a program that maybe adults would enjoy as well as kids. This was
chocolate anyway.
Yes. Okay, so with that said, let us begin our Tu B'Shvat Seder. We're going to begin planting the seeds, so to speak, with a little bit of Torah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah once said, "One whose wisdom exceeds their good deeds is like a tree with many branches but few roots. The wind comes and plucks it up and overturns it. But one whose good deeds exceed their wisdom is like a tree with few branches but many roots. Even if all the winds in the world come and blow upon it, it cannot be uprooted. May our learning lead to good deeds, which improve our world." Together we say, Amen.
Amen.
And so with that intention, we're going to learn a little bit about Tu B'Shvat. And through our learning, again, hopefully it leads us to right actions, that we go out in the world and we engage in Tikkun Olam, the repair of our world, and also, to focus on all the different issues surrounding nature and our environment. Okay. So what is Tu B'Shvat? A history. Now, as I mentioned, if you would like to participate in a reading, I might just, call on a few people. I know my Bible study group in particular is not shy on such matters. But if you're someone who doesn't like to read, I'm going to basically go around the room, so to speak. I'm going to go right down my list here. But if you don't want to read, please don't feel obligated. You can just sort of pass, and that's okay. But Sharon, I have you up first.
From temple service to Seder table. Today we celebrate a birthday. The Mishnah proclaims the 15th day of the month of Shvat as the new year for the trees. New years are a time for hope and new beginnings. 2,000 years ago, Tu B'Shvat marked the beginning of a new year for calculating the agricultural ma'asavot, tithes, 1/10 of each person's harvest. Depending on the year, part fed the poor and part was used in a festive celebration in Jerusalem. After the temple was destroyed and the Jews were exiled from Israel, we no longer gave tips. Still, Jews marked Tu B'Shvat by eating Shivat Haminim, the 7 grains and fruits that are biblically associated with Eretz Yisrael: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And so Tu B'Shvat, as we learned a little bit on Friday, is one of 4 New Years that we have on the calendar. For those who did our Shabbat trivia, our pre-trivia night trivia session, we talked about the 4 New Years. That Rosh Hashanah, we know, obviously, that is our New Year. It's the creation of the world. So that's that New Year. Tu B'Shvat, New Year for the trees, for in Nisan, we have the slavery to redemption sort of New Year's, which is also the New Year's for the kings, marking the exodus from Egypt, but also the time when kings had their coronation. And then we have the first of Elul, which no one cares about because it's about tithing animals. And since we don't really deal with tithing animals anymore, it's gotten into pretty much non-existence. So during Tu B'Shvat, they would come to the temple and they would bring their first fruits, they'd bring agriculture, and they would give it for offerings. And these offerings, these tithes would go out to the poor, but also for celebrations, as well. But after the temple was destroyed, we were no longer doing this. So the holiday sort of lapsed a little bit, but they would eat the fruits and the grains that were associated with Israel that we're going to talk about in another moment or two. These from Deuteronomy, these different agricultural products. But that was just the beginning. And then who came to save the day? But the Kabbalists, the Jewish mystics, came in order to give a little bit extra meaning to this holiday. And so that's what we're going to pick up now. Barbara Bachman, you want to give that a read?
Sure. From temple service to Seder table. In 16th century Tzvat in northern Israel, Rabbi Isaac Luria, a mystic, seeded a transformation of Tu B'Shvat by developing a festive Passover-like Seder featuring teachings, wine, and the fruits of the land of Israel. The main idea was that eating 10 specific fruits and drinking 4 cups of wine in a specific order while reciting the appropriate blessings would bring human beings and the world close to spiritual perfection. The mystical Kabbalist Tu B'Shvat Seder has been revived and is now celebrated by many Jews, religious and secular.
Very nice. The Kabbalists were the originators, really, of the concept of Tikkun Olam, but they were quite literal. They believed that there were shards of light all over the world that were broken during the time of creation, and it was our job to collect those shards of light, and we did that by doing good deeds and by praying the correct way, by understanding the mystical interpretation of Torah. And so the mystics take this holiday, Tu B'Shvat, which is an agricultural holiday, and they put in it some extra meaning, some mystical teachings, and say it's not only about, isn't it nice to have fruit and trees, and we should be thankful for the fruit and the trees, but it's about our connection with God and about our connection to each other. And if we eat the correct fruits and drink the wine and say the correct blessings, then we're going to help create a better world through those actions. We're going to help bring the world a little bit closer to completion, to perfection. And so they took their mystic teachings, which they started in Spain, and after the Spanish Inquisition, they went up north to Israel, to Sfat, and that's where, for those of you who've been to Israel, and walked around the holy city of Sfat, that's where a lot of this took place. Luria's synagogue, is still there. You can visit, his synagogue that was founded during his time. So that's sort of the idea here. Mystics took this holiday about giving thanks for nature, and tithing, and turned it into about our relationship with God and the universe. By the way, I should mention, if there are any questions, you can please add them to the chat, and I'll take a look at them there. That's actually probably the easiest way, especially on, screen share view. So if you have any questions, you can please enter it in the chat, and I'll do my best. And so now, we're going to dive into a little bit of the Seder itself. Our Kabbalistic picture over here, you can see on this side over here, there are 4 different worlds according to the Kabbalists. And so we go from the lowest to the highest. And so this first world, Asiyah, the world of action. We're going to start there. Then we're going to travel upwards. We're going to ascend together, my friends. We're going to ascend to the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, Bria, the world of creation, and Atzilut, the world of emanation. And each of these worlds is going to be represented by a different kind of fruit and a little bit of wine or grape juice, as befits what you're doing at home. So those are our different worlds we're going to look at. And so again, we're starting here at the lowest level, the level of physicality, and we're going to keep striving upwards, reaching ever higher to connect with God, again, and the universe. So we begin, of course, with the first cup of wine, like any good Seder. We begin with the first cup of wine. Linda, you want to give that a read?
Oh, sure. The first cup we drink at the Seder is pure white, like the winter. It represents the beginning, the time when creation began with the separation of light from darkness. The seedling of the tree is like the first light. It is the spark of divine creation, which contains within it the potential to become a tree. We each fill our cup, say the blessing together, and then drink only half of the wine or juice in the cup.
Okay, and so again, for those who are partaking, I drink and I know things. You know?
It's dangerous.
Yeah. Little Game of Thrones reference. Okay, so now we have the wine is poured. It is white wine as we begin. It's again, as we said, to remind us of winter and remind us of light. And hold on for 1 second. Let's have to admit these people in to our thing. Nina, can I make you a co-host? Are you around?
Yes, you can. I was just going to say that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. So now that we have our wine or juice, whatever we're enjoying this evening, we can now say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. L'chaim.
Really want some wine?
Yes.
You're a little late. L'chaim. Computer problem.
Okay, Debbie, how you doing? Debbie,
I'm doing.
We just had to switch computers.
We had to go from the kitchen to the guest room.
okay. Are you all set up now?
Oh, yes, we are. The wine and the screen is working now. Yes, everything is
Excellent. You want to read up a little bit about the first fruit?
I will. Asaya, the world of action, is the realm of. Oh, the pictures.
I'll move it.
You have to move those pictures out of the way. Okay, now I can read it. Asaya, the world of action, is the realm of the concrete, the physical. At this level, the need is greatest for protection, for shields and defenses. It is risky at this level to let our defenses down, to open up, to peel off protective shells. Being furthest away from the perfection, this world is represented by fruits or nuts with an inedible outer shell and an edible inner core.
Thank you so much for that. And I gave you a few examples. We have pomegranate, we have oranges, we have pistachios. Any particular, you can enter it in the chat box if you'd like. Any of your favorites you can add in that have an inedible outer shell, but an edible, yummy inner core.
Pineapple.
Pineapple, I hear.
Peanuts.
Peanuts.
Bananas.
And so we have a nice little plate. Ooh, lots of
show and tell.
Yeah, a little show and tell, little fruits. And so
Okay.
I have here, I'm going to use an orange, but I also have a pomelo. Nice connection to the land of Israel for a pomelo. Of course, a pomegranate, also a connection to Israel, and pistachios because I like pistachios. So it works out well. And so we have our fruit, but before we eat, we're going to have a little bit of a meditation first. And so I want you to hold your fruit, whatever you are going to enjoy in a moment. Look closely at the fruit you have chosen. Notice its shape, its colors, its curves and undulations, all of its details. Now, smell your fruit. And now, if you feel comfortable, please, I'd ask you to close your eyes. Consider for a moment all the people involved in getting this fruit into your hand. Where was it grown and by whom? Farmers, truck drivers, storekeepers, men and women. Imagine how hard they are working to support themselves and their families. Now consider all of the ways in which God has supported the creation of this fruit by creating fertile soil, clouds and rainwater, energy from sunshine and air. Finally, think about the tree or plant from which this fruit grew. Think of the tree's roots reaching down to the soil. Think of the strong trunk, the rough bark, and think of the branches that stretch to the sky. Think of the whole plant, the whole tree. Opening our eyes again, we join together in the blessing, the last three words, Borei Pri Ha'etz. So we're going to say, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Borei Pri Ha'etz. Blessed are you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, creator of fruit of the trees. Amen. Enjoy, everybody. And like any good Seder, please, you feel free to nibble, through all of your fruits and vegetables, or your fruits really, and nuts as we continue. Borei Pri Ha'etz, the fruit of the tree. Now, you might ask yourselves, well, what if my fruit really is more of a Borei Pri Hagafen, the fruit of the vine? The reason is that when you say Borei Pri Ha'etz, it actually covers the ones that grow on vines as well, or it doesn't work the other way around. So you can't say Borei Pri Hagafen and then eat the orange, or eat other things. You have to say Borei Pri Ha'etz. Whereas if you're eating a grape, for example, which you should still say Borei Pri Hagafen, you can say Borei Pri Ha'etz, and it covers it. It's included in that blessing. Just a little Jewish prayer law 101. Okay, so now we have done our first fruit, and as we've done our first fruit and we've enjoyed it together and celebrating our Tu B'Shvat Seder, we now join together with Shechianu. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Shechianu V'Kimanu V'Hiyanu Lazman Hazeh. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, who has caused us to live, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this time. And we say Amen. Okay. We're now moving to the next world, Yetzirah, the world of formation. If we remember from our morning Shabbat services that we maybe have observed in the past, our B'nai Mitzvah, we have a prayer, Yotzer Or, it's the same root. It thanks God for the creation of the world, right? And so it's about formation here, Yetzirah. Okay, so now we're going to get to our second cup of wine. Bob, you want to give us a read?
Our second cup of wine consists partly of white light, the space of divine holiness. Yet we already see the red flame of life which has begun to burn within it. The flame symbolizes the tree's growth as it nourished. Beginning as small sapling, she starts to gain her physical and spiritual strength from four basic elements: earth, water, air, and fire. Her small trunk reaches toward the sun. Her roots soak up the water from the ground, and the liony leaves breathe in air. And the fire of life swells within her. We add red wine to the white wine that is already in our cup, so that the cup is again full. Say the blessing together, and then again drink 1/2 of the wine in the cup.
Okay, and so again, for those of you who are partaking, you should have now half a glass or so of white. And I have a little Cabernet here, so we're just gonna give that a little.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not gonna go halfway because or else the end of the seder is gonna be very interesting. Okay, and so we have our cup of wine, and we're gonna say together, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Pri Hagafen. Blessed are you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. L'chaim. So question, a very good question. Any reason the tree is called she or her? And that's a really good question. I don't have a great answer for that. Eitz in Hebrew, eitz chayim he. So eitz is feminine, in the singular in Hebrew, though its plural is a masculine. So that could be a reason. The idea of the tree sort of being a life-giving, nurturing, symbol, I would guess also leads it to she, for a tree. That or just the authors, but I do feel like that trees are often referred to in the feminine. I think they also wanted to shy away from it. I think they wanted to sort of give it some of that personal, life-giving, aura around it. So I think that's why it's a good question. It's a good question. The wine that we just drank, if our first wine was winter, the second wine would be spring. We're going around the calendar. So a little bit of red into the white, so it gets a little bit warmer, so to speak. But it is not, it's going to get a little bit more red, so to speak, as we continue on with the program. Okay. Now let's have our second fruit. Sandy.
Sure. The Kabbalists define the world of Yetzirah as a world of physicality, like forming clay into a shape. But this formation is about our inner self, our emotions. What dwells inside of us beneath the surface that makes us who we are. Our essence may be hidden away, protected by layers, but within us is tremendous creative power just waiting to bloom. It is represented by fruits with edible outer flesh and pithy inedible cores.
Okay, thank you for that. So Yetzirah, physical formation, but really more about what makes us us. What's our insides? What's our emotion? What's at our core, so to speak? What's at our heart? That we all have parts of ourselves that are sort of hidden away that sort of make us us, but that part is often vulnerable, right? So we have to protect it with different layers. And so that's what this represents as well. But it's also, in my opinion, sort of the B'Tselem Elohim in us in a way, the image of God, what has been implanted right within us that makes us grow, that makes us shine, and so I think that's what I think of, here. It's sort of our inner potential that's waiting to burst forth and be actualized. So we have some different fruits that can represent this idea. We have mango, we have peach, we have avocado, amongst many, many more. Does anyone have a favorite stone fruit? Any favorite fruits with that pit on the inside?
Apricot.
Apricot, very nice.
Would the apple work or no?
The apple's interesting because I would view the apple as yes, but technically speaking, since you're able to actually eat the core and the seeds of the apple, even though you shouldn't, it's usually, in my opinion, you shouldn't. I guess each their own. But to everybody, it usually falls into the next category of completely edible. Though again, to me, it feels like it makes more sense to be in this category since who eats an entire apple? We see peach, we see cherries and plums. Very nice. So does papaya have papaya is a stone fruit, right? Papaya has a big seed in it.
Yeah,
I don't eat it.
they're good.
They're good.
Mhm.
Lots of great different fruits with a big seed in it. And again, I love that idea. It's actually one of my favorite concepts of Tu B'Shvat, is this idea that we all have something inside us that is special. Maybe we guard it a little bit, but when we let it out, it sort of bursts forth and it's able to create really wonderful blessings around us. Because I think we all have that something special inside us that's just waiting, to come out and to help transform our world for the better. I think it's a really nice thought for Tu B'Shvat. So again, you can grab whatever fruit tickles your fancy for this one. I have a peach here. I also have some mango, but actually what I'm going to use dates. Again, a little bit of a nod to Eretz Yisrael. We're going to have a little bit of a date. It's actually one of the few times I have this fruit, and so I like it for Tu B'Shvat. So we're now going to bless together. So you can grab your fruit, whatever you're going to enjoy. As we say, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Borei Pri Ha'etz. And we're going to enjoy.
Oh, walnuts. The walnut, you can't eat the shell, but no, it's not.
It's not a fruit.
Of course, it has the pit. Very pleasant. Mmm. I can have a little bit of a peach too while we're here. Ah, delicious and healthy. So it's good. It's a healthy holiday. Maybe not so much. Ah,
Fruit.
delicious.
I'm in fruit, my kind of diet.
Okay. So we're going to take a little bit of a pause. I think it's connected, but I think it's a nice idea. I wanted to incorporate a little bit of modern Tu B'Shvat poetry. This is an Israeli poem about Tu B'Shvat and about the day itself and maybe some of its deeper meanings. And I sort of like the image that it portrays here. Brahms, you guys around? Melissa, Tyler. Not so much? Okay, we're gonna. I see Melissa coming in. You still on mute?
Sorry about that.
No problem. You guys want to read this poem over here?
The 15th of Shvat. On the 15th of Shvat, when the spring comes, an angel descends, ledger in hand, and enters each bud, each twig, each tree, and all our garden flowers, from town to town, from village to village. He makes his winged way, searching the valleys, inspecting the hills, flying over the desert, and returns to heaven. And when the ledger will be full of trees and blossoms and shrubs, when the desert is turned into a meadow and all our land is a watered garden, the Messiah will appear.
Thank you so much for that. I think it's a really nice image about our responsibility to take care of nature, to make the desert bloom. You can hear, for those of us who certainly can remember a little bit of Israel's history, it has a Zionist overtone, right, of making the desert bloom, of the work of, now, of course, the Jewish National Fund, amongst others, that help, create, more of a lush environment. When the first settlers, were coming back, sort of in the pre-Israel time of the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were coming to a lot of, desert and swamp. And their first act was really to help plant and to help create, especially orange trees, orange groves. And so I think about them, during Tu B'Shvat, these early pioneers that created a different image of what the modern Jew is going to look like, and not just the sort of scholar that's studying Talmud all day, but someone with physicality that's going to go work the land, work the field, and to create something new. There's a great Talmudic teaching. It's actually one of my favorites that says that if you have in your hand a tree sapling, right? If you have a plant that's there and it's literally it's in your hand at the time you got your shovel, you're digging, whatever it is, and all of a sudden, your friend runs past you and sort of calls out to you, the Messiah is coming, the Messiah is coming. In that moment, you can't not plant the tree. You plant the tree first, then you go greet the Messiah, which I think is a beautiful teaching. The idea that we have that responsibility to our world to create and to help nature and to be partners with God in creation. And so you plant the tree first, then you can go. But there's a responsibility, I think, and I think that's a really beautiful image. And here, this idea of the angels sort of going from, town to town, different areas, and they're literally taking account of each bud, each twig, each tree, all of our flowers, and saying to the angelic self, this is good, this is important, this is meaningful. And in that day, when we have worked to create a better world here, literally with the trees, the blossoms, the shrubs, one can take a step back, I think, and look at this more metaphorically. When we've created a world in which justice and peace and kindness bloom, that's the time, when the Messiah is going to come, or that's going to usher in the Messianic age, however we want that image, in our minds, however that goes for us. That's when I read this, I think about it not only literally, but also metaphorically. When we're creating a better world, a more vibrant world, that's our responsibility, both, again, literally with the tree planting, but in how we treat each other. What are the seeds we're planting in our world? Okay. And now a little interlude, a little bit of an Israel interlude in between our second and third cups of wine. I think it's always a nice idea. Take a little bit of a pause and talk about Israel, talk about the Zionist enterprise, because Tu B'Shvat, of course, as we learned in the very beginning, is about our connection also to the land of Israel, to Eretz Yisrael, to the fruit, to the wheat and the barley. So we got a question here actually before we dive into this about cutting down a tree with fruit is considered to be sinful. Yes, and indeed, it actually comes from, this is a question from Gary, that have you heard that cutting down a tree with fruit is considered sinful and not to be done? Yeah, that's actually from the Torah. It has that idea in it that we are not supposed to make war, right, against the trees, because the trees can't defend themselves. And so cutting on any tree is supposed to be done with, great thought and concern before that's going to be done. But a fruit tree in particular, because it provides, food and sustenance, there's a concept in Judaism called Bal Tashchit, which means do not be wasteful, right? And so cutting down a fruit tree that has, the ability to give us food, to give us nutrition, to provide sustenance, is seen as really something not to be done. So that's a great question. The idea being, again, that the trees can't defend themselves, who are you to raise a sword against them? We are supposed to be like the Lorax and speak for the trees. For the trees have no tongues. I'm not going to do the whole book. I might be able to. I'm not going to do the whole book. It's actually my favorite Dr. Seuss. That's another connection for another day. I love the Lorax. Okay. Onwards and upwards. Tanners, you want to read? You guys want to chill?
The land. The land of Israel is the birthplace of the Jewish people. More than 3,000 years ago, God made a covenant with Abraham, promising to make him a great nation and to give his descendants Eretz Yisrael, the land the land of Israel has been important to Jews ever since. On Tu B'Shvat, we especially eat fruits which grow in the land of Israel, such as figs, dates, pomegranates, grapes, olives, wheat, and barley.
Yep, you got it.
Listed in
Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
Mm-hmm.
These items are known as the 7 species. The Shvat Hamini.
Thank you so much. What great reading. Thank you so much for that. That was lovely. So yes, exactly. You're right. Well done. So we have this idea of covenant, that God promises Abraham this land to make him a great nation. And so, of course, Israel has been the center of Jewish life since then. And as part of it on Tu B'Shvat, we eat these special fruits which grow in the land of Israel that we spoke about a little bit earlier. We got some questions coming. Oh, we've got some high praise and compliments. Well earned. Well earned. Lovely. And we also had a question about, is it a sin to cut down a diseased fruit tree? In that case, I do not believe it would be a transgression to cut it down because, again, of the negative impact that it is having. And so, though there's actually a couple great teachings about that idea, about if you have a tree, for example, this is obviously hypothetical, but if you have a tree and one half of it grows medicine and one half of it grows poison, what do you do with the tree? Because it's putting bad in the world, but it's putting good in the world at the same time. And so the rabbis have a debate about what you do with this kind of tree. And my recollection is actually you keep the tree standing for the good, that it's going to do, and try to mitigate the bad effects as well. But for a tree that is not yielding anymore, that might be causing harm or destruction to the rest of the environment, then again, for the greater good, for the greater environment, I think one can cut it down without worrying about it so much. I think that's a really great question, though, because I think it's something that can have a debate, on what you can do here. Really good question. Okay, and so that's sort of our biblical roots, our biblical origins. Oh, we got a nice long reading here. Who am I going to pick on? Bob and Carolyn, you guys want to read a little bit?
1898 theater.
Oh, sorry, Bob. I meant Bob and Carolyn Gold.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's me. Thank you. I forget that we have some of the same names here today. So is that a yes or a no, Bob and Carolyn Gold? That looks like okay, there we go.
No, we are muted now, right? In 1898, Theodor Herzl, the founder of modern Zionism, visited the small community of Motzah, west of Jerusalem. Motzah, surrounded by barren hills, was an oasis of olive, date, and apricot trees and grapevines. The setting sun cast an array of colors on the empty land, inspiring Herzl to ascend a nearby hill and plant a young cypress tree. After Herzl's death, young Jews would gather around Herzl's tree on his yahrzeit to plant other trees. In 1917, the British and the Turks fought over the land of Israel. When students arrived to plant around Herzl's tree that year, they found that the Turks had cut it down. The young Zionists collected the seed-filled cones around the remains of his tree. Later, these young idealists planted the seeds throughout the land from the Galil to the Judean hills. A generation later, the trees from these seeds became part of the state of Israel, which was reestablished after 2,000 years. The miracle of Israel is a deep source of hope for Jews worldwide. Herzl taught, if you will it, it is no dream.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So that's a great little story about Herzl, the founder of the modern Zionist movement, and about him planting trees, but also those who came after him planting as well, and helping to make the desert bloom. And so it's part of sort of the mission, part of the idea of creation in a way, being partners with God in creation of the land of Israel, and that. Again, this very last line from Herzl, very famous, the Hebrew, Im tirtzu ein zo agada, if you will it, it is no dream. And so I think to the creation of the modern state of Israel, 1948, and the miraculous nature of the creation of the land, and also that it is, thank God, been able to continue to not only survive, but thrive against all obstacles and challenges. Thank you for that. Let me see here as I go around my square. Leah Slavinsky, how you doing? You want to unmute?
Unmute. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Nice to see you. You want to do a little reading for us?
Sure. Sure. Thanks. Planting trees, a new beginning. During the planting of the President's Forest in 1949, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion said, "Of all the blessed acts in which we are engaged in this country, I do not know if there is a more fruitful enterprise whose results are so useful as the planting of trees, which adds beauty to the scenery of our country, improves its climate, and adds health to its inhabitants. It is no coincidence that on the 15th of Shvat, the day which symbolizes the revival of nature, as highlighted by the flowering of the almond trees and the renewed ties between the Jewish people and its land, was chosen by various institutions as their inauguration day. The cornerstone of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem was laid on that date in 1918. The Technion, okay, in Haifa in 1925, the Knesset, the Parliament of Israel in 1949.
Thank you, very nicely done. So of course, Ben-Gurion, his quote about how important it is to plant trees and to, for all the different reasons that he lists. And also the idea of the 15th of Shvat, which I love this idea, is that it's seen as a time of renewal, right? Not just for, the trees and nature, but for all of us, right? And it's a time of it can be a time of spiritual rebirth. And so that's why you have institutions that use Tu B'Shvat as their inauguration day, sort of their beginnings, including a Hebrew University, the Technion, and the Knesset. Okay, excellent. Okay, so now that we're going to move a little forward to our next world of creation, Bria. If you look here, for those of us who have a little Hebrew, you have a bet, you have a resh, and then you have an aleph, bara, as in Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God creates the heaven and the earth, or the heavens and the earth. So that's the root here of creation, Bereshit, bara, bria, all about creation. Renee Ramey, how we doing, Renee?
I'm doing good.
Nice to see you. You want to give a little read here for our third cup of wine?
Sure. The third cup. This cup of wine or juice is partly white and mostly red. The tree has rooted herself firmly in the earth, grown into its full being and blooming. The shade, wood, herbs, and flowers that are now her simple and modest gifts to the earth and humankind allow us to see her and embrace her as a provider. We each add more red wine to the mixture of wine that is already in our cup, so that the cup is again full. Say the blessing together and then drink all of the wine in the cup except for a small drop.
Okay. So poured a little more red wine for myself. Again, those who wish to partake in their wine or juice, that is your cue. This wine represents summertime, and so it's our next season. We started off with the all white wine for winter, then we went to a little bit of spring, and now we are in summertime, deep red, rich tones. We now bless together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Chaim.
Aye.
Whoa.
Ah.
Oh, Rabbi.
Okay, it's a Seder. It's always good to follow instructions.
You're gonna get
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
Third fruit, Bria. I see David and Sue Ellis are here. You guys want to read a little bit? You got to unmute. You have to unmute first. You're still muted. There you go.
There you go.
Bria, the world of creation, is the closest to pure spirit of the three lower worlds. It is the world of thought, of consciousness, of intellect. There are no barriers here. Internal or external is represented by any fruits which are edible throughout.
Okay. And so you can grab any fruit that you have that is edible throughout. Usually it's a good time for berries, for grapes. In its season, I couldn't find figs anywhere. I don't think it's fig season just yet. But grapes, strawberries. Anyone else have a favorite fruit they can eat entirely?
Blackberry.
Blueberries, blackberries. Don't we have a star fruit tree growing? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I see Melissa Brown with the thumbs up. I know that they've got a star fruit tree. That also fits into this category.
How about tomatoes?
Would be okay.
You know what? I was thinking about tomatoes today because I don't think that falls in traditionally, but well, yeah, 100%. I think tomatoes work, for something like this. The tomatoes are, of course, edible throughout and are a fruit. So now that we have our fruit, I got a little question here or a comment. Star fruit. Yeah, we like the star fruit. Come and get them. I love it. Very nice. And so again, you can grab whichever fruit is your favorite for this blessing. As we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'etz. Blessed are you, eternal our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of fruit of the trees. Amen.
Amen.
Berries grow on bushes
Mm.
and on trees. Berries grow on bushes. Strawberries grow on
Vines.
vines. Right?
Okay. This is actually one of my favorite prayers. It's one that I've actually grown to love, I think, the more I've moved around a little bit. When I was in New York, when I was in Long Island, Forest Hills, it wasn't really my habit to enjoy nature as much. Not that I'm a big outdoorsman, as those of you who know me know that's not exactly my milieu. But that being said, in California, to a lesser extent Texas, and certainly here in Clearwater, this idea that you can just go out and enjoy nature. And I don't know about everyone else here, though I can guess, especially during the last 9 months, we've had an opportunity to sort of find some time in nature, to sort of, socially distance and sort of walk amongst the fields and the trees and the beach, to find different ways to enjoy nature. And so this is a prayer that sort of speaks about that idea from Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who's a very famous Hasidic rabbi. He wrote lots of really wonderful prayers of meditation and sort of about the connection to the natural world. And so this prayer has become very famous as one that people say when they go outdoors for some meditation or just to have a stroll. Gary, you want to give that a read?
Okay. Master of the universe, grant me the ability to be alone. May it be my custom to go out of doors each day among the trees and grass, among all growing things, and there may I be alone and enter into prayer to talk to the one to whom I belong. May I express their everything in my heart, and may all the foliage of the field, all the grasses, trees, and plants awake at my coming, to send the powers of their life into the words of my prayer, so that my prayer and speech are made whole through the life and spirit of all growing things, which are made as one by their transcendent source. May I then pour out the words of my heart before your presence like water, O God, and lift up my hands to you in worship.
Oh, thank you for that. Beautifully done, beautifully read. For those of us who've had the experience, whether it was through Jewish camping or whether it was through sort of going on a retreat or just having the moment really to pray outside, to pray in nature, let's reflect for a second. Has anyone sort of done that and really had a different prayer experience than they do inside? Does anyone sort of have a thought on that one to share, perhaps? Let's see. Yeah, Barbara? You guys gotta unmute. Yep.
I would say when I went to Israel in 2010, the first time I'd been there, only time, and we planted trees. We had a whole truck full of little baby, maybe this big trees with all the little spades and everything. And I said to myself, I'm looking around thinking, oh my God, look what they've done to this country to make it grow and flourish the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt so surreal, but it was wonderful. It was a wonderful feeling.
It's a wonderful feeling, especially in Israel. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly. Like I remember Elizabeth and I, we rented a car one year. We just sort of drove the state. We're just sort of like, because it's hard to get lost. But we had a GPS, but it's hard to get lost. You can just sort of just drive up and down, Israel. And just seeing the beauty of the land, and also just having moments of prayerfulness was very special and very meaningful. Actually, not that there was a lot of growth there, but Bamidbar, so to speak, in the wilderness, was actually very powerful for us. And Nina chimes in with Shabbat on the beach, of 100% right. And meditating sort of outside, the channel to know about that. Very important, I think. Very fulfilling, I think, very centering, as well. I remember one of my first experiences, and I was not a camper sort of growing up, but going to Jewish camp as a rabbi, student rabbi, youth advisor, and just having those moments sort of outside and praying were really beautiful and really nice. Green Family Camp when I was in Texas. And of course, I'm looking forward to getting to Camp Coleman when the world normalizes a bit more. But just to have those moments of being outside and praying can be very powerful when you're amongst nature. Can sort of give us a different pathway, different entrance point into prayer. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that that's probably our next step when it comes to our sort of synagogue reopening, right? I got another tour today from Al of the outdoor space, that has been created. He's got the lights all strung up. He's worked really hard. I mean, next time, if you ever drop by the temple and see Al, make sure to say thank you, because he's put in a lot of great work into creating that space for us. And it'll be a nice experience to come together and pray outside. Yeah, Gary has a great comment here about just walking out in the woods, praying out loud, hearing your thoughts and your words. It's a very different experience. And it is, I think it makes us a little bit humble to understand that we are part of something greater. I think it's a really well said, a really nice idea. Okay, so Rabbi Nachman, always helpful, always some wonderful wise words. And we're coming to the end, coming to the conclusion, our last world, the world of emanation. Now, our fourth cup of wine. Let me see here. If you don't have your picture on, I'm assuming that you're trying to hide from me a little bit. But I see Helene there. Helene's got a picture on. How you doing, Helene? You're good. You want to unmute? That's okay.
I got it. I got it.
Oh, you got it. There you go. You want to give us a little fourth cup?
This cup is the highest level of creation. We see the tree aflame with life, so much so that the red flame completely overpowers the white light, which was its beginning. Here is the tree in her full glory. All aspects of growth and life are contained within her, and her divine spark is completely concealed. This deep red wine is the cypress whose fruit are now ripe, the esrach whose fragrance we enjoy in the fall, and the melon whose fruit is full of flavor in the summer. The cup of red wine symbolizes the source of our strength, the source of our connection with the earth. We fill our cups, whoops, hold on, my computer just went little. The source of our connection with the earth. We fill our cups once again with red wine, adding to the small drop at the bottom that still contains some white, saying the blessing together and then drinking the entire glass.
Okay, so again, for those who are partaking, I'm going to actually not partake so much. I have to help put the kids to bed, so you know. This will be a smaller cup of wine. Still feel the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the
fruit of the vine.
L'chaim. See, some mitzvahs are really a lot of fun. Okay. Excellent. All mitzvahs should be fun. Okay, next. The fourth fruit. Now you might be asking yourself, hey, you know, we had different kinds of fruits already, fruits that have a hard, so protective shell or peel that you can eat the entire inside, fruits that have a hard pit, a hard core inside, and we have fruits that we can eat the whole thing. What's the fourth fruit? Well, I'm glad you asked about this fourth fruit. Adlers, hi, how you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Excellent. Do you want to give me a little read here?
Sure. Fourth fruit. The Kabbalists define the world of Absolute as the world of pure spirit. We all have a relationship to the physical and to the intangible, that which is not physical. The fourth world is about our highest selves, when we are not eating, when we are not thinking of our bodies, in which we have all the tools to bring in pure holiness in each moment. According to the Kabbalists, it is the world floating above our earthly desires. In an attempt to gain an understanding of the divine implications of this realm, we do as our ancestors did and look to the tree as a symbol of life, a life without shells, a life of replenishing the earth, and a life of balance in which there is inherent understanding of the place of both humans and nature.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So the last fruit is no fruit, because here we are in pure spiritual mode, but it's time for us to think and reflect about the things that we enjoy, and even more so about our connection to the spiritual realm, the spiritual world. It's about, remember, if we think about Yetzirah, right, we think about the seed that's planted within us. Now let's think about the growth, the actual fulfillment of our potentials, right? The actualization of everything good that is inside of us. And when we connect to the good in us, we remember we connect to the God in us, right? And so the more that we are in tune with that part of ourselves, we are bursting forth, so to speak. We are blooming holiness. We are blooming good deeds, right? And that's going to make us further connected to God and to the world, right? So that is the last sort of stage. emanation, right? Where it's supposed to be springing forth from us. And so we look as a symbol. We mentioned a little bit earlier in our conversation about why do we call Torah Eitz Chaim Hi? It's a tree of life, right? Because Torah gives us roots, right? It establishes us, it founds us, right? It's a foundation. So if our roots in Torah Eitz Chaim Hi, if the roots in our tree of life are deep, we can't get knocked around. We can't fall down. We will be able to confront the winds of life, the challenges of life, and we'll still be established. We'll still be fine. But Torah is not Eitz Chaim Hi, not the tree of life, only because of the roots. Because it enables us to grow. It enables us to blossom and branch out and to impact our world in different ways. So the Eitz Chaim Hi, this beautiful image of the tree, and the Torah, right, as a symbol of life, it's about, again, not only planting us, but allowing us to grow, allowing us to develop, allowing us to impact our world in a positive way. And when we reach that stage of understanding that we are in a symbiotic relationship with our entire world, when we can connect ourselves to everything that is human and everything that is in nature, then that's the higher level. That's the next stage up. Sort of in our divine tree that we saw earlier, that we can go from Asiyah, the world of action, to the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation, to the world of Briah, the world of creation, to now the Atzilut, the world of emanation, right? We can keep on going up the ladder, so to speak, in holiness. And once we get to that top level, we're going to have that impact where we're going to be able to bless the world through our deeds. And it's not about our own desires. It's about, again, creating a better world and connecting with God and each other. It wouldn't be a Tu B'Shvat Seder unless we said hi to Honi, unless we had our story of Honi the Circle Maker, because that one is almost synonymous with this holiday. And I think one really fitting note in which to sort of close and conclude our experience together. Rabbi Yochanan said, one day, Honi the Circle Maker was walking on the road and he saw a man planting a carob tree. He asked the man, how long will it take for this tree to bear fruit? The man replied, 70 years. It's a long time to wait for carob.
Yeah.
He asked, are you quite sure you will live another 70 years to eat its fruit? The man replied, I myself found fully grown carob trees in the world. As my forebears planted for me, so am I planting for my children.
Yeah.
Which is really a beautiful message, especially for the grandparents that I know that are on this call, especially those seeing their grandchildren on this call. It really is a beautiful idea that, it is to me one of the ultimate acts of tikkun, right? One of the ultimate acts of repair, and a realization of the idea that we are in fact partners with God in creation, that we understand that as we have come into the world and enjoy the bounties of nature, the blessings of our environment, that it is our obligation to ensure that the generations that come after us can enjoy the same things, can experience nature, can experience the wonders of the environment in the same way we did. And so it's our job to be shomrim, right? To be guardians. It's a fantastic passage in Genesis where, God commands Adam and, I like to say Adam and Eve, it's really Adam, but it involves all of us, right? That we are supposed to be stewards of the world, right? We're supposed to take care of the world, right? And so that's our job, is to really be partners with God in creation, because so you think about the idea. So I'm thinking about Ari, actually, because Ari went through, he's taking his science classes, and they had a whole thing about the natural world and the different cycles of the trees, right? And of the flowers. And we know that nature can honestly often take care of itself, right? The bees come, they pollinate the flower, they take the pollen to another flower, and more flowers come, so that they're able to, nature has its way, right, of moving forward. So then one can say, what about us, right? So why do we have to do anything if nature can be self-fulfilling in a way. And it's because we have an obligation to help it along. We have an obligation to be partners and to be creative forces in the world. And so we don't just say, hey, it's not our job. Nature will take care of itself. No, it's our job to be involved, especially because of the human footprint, that we are putting into the world, that we have to make sure that whatever we do that impacts the world is not going to be something that is forever, that we can somehow also help create a world that, again, is still something that can be enjoyed for the future generations. We have to make sure that our own actions do not debilitate, the world in which we live. And so it's really seen as a very important mitzvah of tikkun olam, obviously repairing the world quite literally, to making sure that we are reusing, recycling, that we are, taking the proper steps to make sure that we are not leaving, again, as big of a carbon footprint, that we are making sure that we are working really hard to make sure that we are sustaining and preserving our environment. And so that's a nice place to end, I think, with Tikkun Olam, right? Because that really is part of the message of Tu B'Shvat, is that as we have come into a world with trees and flowers and plants and all the wonderful things that we can see, the ocean, that it is our job to make sure that our next generation and generations after can enjoy as well. So with that said, we have now concluded our Seder. As we finish, we remember that we have an obligation to care for the earth, to utilize it while at the same time preserving it for future generations. May the new year be a year of growth. May it be a year of renewal. And may all our eyes be open to the wonders of creation. May we come to appreciate everything that is around us. And may we learn to build a brighter and better future for our children. Together we say, Amen.
Amen.
Rabbi, yes.
What's a circle maker?
Oh, that's a whole nother class or a whole nother time. It is a very good question. Honi the circle maker was famous for a story in which there's no rain, right, in the land of Israel. There's a drought. And so what Honi does is Honi takes his staff and he creates a circle and says, I'm going to stay in this circle and pray until it rains. And he does, and it does. The rains do come. It is a fantastic midrash, and if I had another hour, we can go through the whole thing. But it is a fantastic story that teaches us a lot of very interesting lessons. It's a very challenging story too. But that's why he's Honi the circle maker. In short, is that he made a circle, he stood within it, and he prayed for rain, and there was lots of rain. But
Rabbi, did it only rain in his circle?
No, it rained everywhere. It actually rained too much. And people had to evacuate. And they had to go into caves to make sure that they weren't drowned. And then he had to pray to God saying, hey, this rain is what I wanted. I want regular rain. But don't give me flooding rain. Shaking his finger up at God. And there's a great story about Honi's actions and how appropriate they were. But it's a very interesting story, and that's why he is Honi the circle maker. I want to just make sure, because it's very important, and it's a message for me it's important, I guess, that we all sort of hear the message that it's a line from Pirkei Avot. Everyone who attributes their words to their proper sources will bring redemption to the world. It's important that we understand that I took a lot of these words from different Tu B'Shvat Seders that I came across. Hazon, Rabbi Amy R. Schneiderman, my teacher, Rabbi Schneiderman, Baba Ganuz, and the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, amongst many other sources one could call from. These are the four that I use to help inspire and to create this experience. And just wanted to make sure that was out there, because it's amazing that we have so many great resources to create these kinds of experiences. Okay, any other final questions, final thoughts before we wrap up?
It was good. Good class.
Enjoyed it.
Very interesting and thank you very much. Oh, we're muted or what?
You got you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Claps.
My pleasure. I'm glad we could have this Tu B'Shvat experience together. Everyone, please, Tu B'Shvat's technically actually tomorrow night and Thursday, but take a moment, think about nature, maybe plant, give a little donation to JNF. It's a nice moment to plant a tree, or however, you choose to acknowledge and appreciate nature. It's a good time to do it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Again, great to see everybody. Have a really good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
And again?